What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Level 11. It turns out I'm not quite done ripping on Concord yet because we are here to look at the list of the video games that took the longest to make. Now, I just Googled it, and we're just going to look at a bunch of results. So let's get right into it. Let's start with Screen Rant, Academy, Academy of Art University, Jewel Shockers, How Stuff Works. We're not doing Reddit. The Gamer. 11 games. Oh, we gotta do 11 games. This is level 11, obviously. We'll do Watch Mojo. Let's save 11 for last. Now, a lot of these don't really seem to expand further than that. So maybe I'll go to like Chat GPT and see what it thinks as far as like if it can give me a list as well and whether or not it aligns with any of these and whether or not it can make a list bigger than 10, 11, 12, or 15. But I guess we'll go by, just whatever the order is already here. So let's get into it. Spore, 8 years. I'm just going to scroll through these. Two Human, 9 years. I forgot about Two Human. I'm going to have to get that on my Xbox emulator. Xbox 360 emulator. Last Guardian, 9 years. All right, so we got 8 years, 9 years, and 9 years. Let's see. We got Team Fortress 2, also 9 years. Oh, wow. Wow. How about that? All right, now keep in mind, this was April 18th of 2022, about 2 years and some change ago. So with that in mind, let's just continue on. Final Fantasy 15, 10 years. Oof, yeah. Prey, 11 years. I mean, I hear it's a good game, but 11 years? Yikes. Diablo 3, 11 years. Mother 3, 12 years. Weird. Duke Nukem Forever, 15 years. Yeah, I get that. Metroid Dread, 16 years. Yeah, now this one I actually did anticipate seeing at some point. I don't know if I really count that per se. Like, it's not like they fucking were working on it that entire time. And I guess the same could be said for a lot of these ones, where it's like, Duke Nukem, Mother 3, things like that. It's like, I mean, one thing I want to, iterate, in my opinion, is that these are all games that, like, probably went through some sort of, and I mean, maybe not all of them, this is probably a technology thing where they had to figure out how to create these creatures with Spore and stuff like that and make them all work and function and live like organisms, at least to a degree, for the player to willingly suspend their disbelief. Two Human, troubled development from what I heard. Same with Last Guardian. Team Fortress 2, I don't know if that's really the case or if they just mean, like, with the consistent updates over time or not. So it's interesting how, like, the context matters so much when you, like, just look at this from a surface level perspective. And the reason I bring this up is because I am only doing this video in relation to Concord as a whole. And would you be wrong in thinking that there was no evidence of development hell for Concord? I think so, and the reason I think that is, well, generally it's taking longer to make games nowadays for XYZ reason, depending on the studio and, like, the slice of the industry that you dwell within, whether that's indie, AAA, or non-Western, non-indie games, which is to say, like, double to AAA Eastern developers. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the Japanese work ethic is pretty different from ours, like pretty superior. And I think that's a part of the equation that a lot of people are not addressing. But anyway, let's with that move right on into this next article. I'm basically saying that developers for Concord are like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like I respect for them for, like I said in my Concord video, their gameplay is fine, the graphics are fine, no problem with it. The character design is a joke. The lack of any, like, flavor in the gameplay loop to make it your own is a big reason why it's not succeeding. Anyway, Star Citizen. This is actually a really good example. Obviously, it's a different context because the scope of the game itself is the main thing that's really making it take so long. That's a whole interesting, like, that's a horse of a different color. That's an entire topic, even of itself. Star Citizen. Now, Duke Nukem Forever, that was a development hell, like, kind of canceled game and then revived kind of game. Diablo 3. Alright, so we're seeing a lot of the same. Oh, LA Noire, 7 years. Spore, 8 years. Prey. So we're seeing a lot of the same ones here, it seems like. Alan Wake, 6 years. That's not even that bad relative to some of these. 7, 8. Starfield, 8 years. Oh, man, Starfield. That's another one that it's like, man, you could have spent that 8 years making something else. Oh man, yeah, that one hurts honestly. Final Fantasy 15 isn't like terrible, but at the same time, it's like, why? Why did that take so long? I kind of get it, but I also don't. I mean, I'm not really knowledgeable on Final Fantasy. Now, Dwarf Fortress being here is interesting. Now, Elan Public Alpha, yeah, that makes sense, because I remember Dwarf Fortress from way back in the day. Now, if that's not on my wish list, I kind of want it there. Because I've heard a lot of things about Dwarf Fortress. Like, there's a lot that you can do in that game. So, anyway, we'll move on from that. No, fuck. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, nice. Okay. So, Resident Evil 4. Huh. Huh. StarCraft 2, yeah. This is actually a pretty good, accurate list based on what I'm seeing. You know, there's other ones like, okay, so Dwarf Fortress, Metroid Dread, you could argue that those are a couple of good examples. Let's see what this one has to say. I don't give a fuck. Cookies. Okay, nothing new there. The 11 articles. Now this one says it's all games that took over a decade, so that's pretty, like... Star Fox 2. Yeah, I mean, that's a interesting point. It's pretty fair, though. Let's see, Final Fantasy, Star Citizen. Gosh, 2010. I didn't realize that's what year it started. But it also kind of makes sense. Yeah, and here's Dwarf Fortress again. Yeah, so let's see. The only things that I think this list is missing, really, based on what I've been seeing everywhere else, is Star Citizen, Metroid Dread, and Dwarf Fortress. And those are all, like, also over 15 years, like Duke Nukem Forever. So, with that in mind, like, let's say this was a top 20 list. I mean, we could think of other games off the, just off the top of my head that have taken a long time. Like, I mean, again, Starfield is not on this list. That's an 8-year development cycle. Cyberpunk 2077, was that a 7-year cycle? If we're not including post-update content and what have you. If we're including that, then it's actually like a 9-year dev cycle, I think, technically. Or maybe even 10. So you have, like, let's see, Dwarf Fortress, Star Citizen, Metroid Dread, Cyberpunk 2077, Starfield. So that's 5 games that are missing from this list. Let's say you add those 5 on there. You could probably chop something from the 6-year category off, and I would argue between Alan Wake or Mafia 2, just because, like, they're the most recent. So I don't know. But the question is, the reason I bring all this up is, where does Concord lie? And it's got to be somewhere between, like, Spore and Darkfall Online, give or take. I mean, let's just smack it right in the middle for argument's sake. So that would be what, like, if I were making a top 20 list right now, it would be within the top 10, 11, or 12, give or take. I think that checks. So, with that in mind, not Starfield. Well, Starfield as well, but Concord is, as far as I didn't do a deep dive on this. I'm just kind of looking around and making a quick assessment. But it seems like Concord and Starfield, might as well throw that in there, are within the top 15 longest to develop video games in history. Concord and Starfield, you guys. Neither of those games are very good. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Duke Nukem Forever, I heard wasn't really all that good. People complain about Diablo 3 or, Last Guardian. A lot of these games are actually, like, quality-wise, not the greatest. I think out of this list in particular, Resident Evil 4 is the only one that's, like, 10 out of 10 video game experience. I mean, you could make an argument for Team Fortress 2 or StarCraft 2 maybe, or, I don't. Maybe Shenmue. I'm not sure, to be honest. I have not played all of these all the way through. But yeah, I kind of want to go back to 2 Human, because I remember that from back in the day. Anyway, Concord took 8 years, you guys. What's going on? How does From Software come out with a new quality product like every 3 years? Capcom takes like, what, 5 or 6 years tops for a new Monster Hunter, like a mainline Monster Hunter game. And you compare that to something like Concord or Starfield. Now, Starfield has a lot of content, sure. Content. But that's the catch, is that it's all content. And it's like, why even spend 8 years if that's what is going to be perceived as at the end of the day? You got too many yes men or women in the industry right now, in the AAA industry. And that's that kind of snowballs into a bigger discussion that doesn't become gaming related if you keep going deeper and deeper into that hole. So I won't. And I'll leave it there. But with that, this has been me ragging on Concord by putting it within the top 10 to 15 longest development cycles in video game history. And it wasn't a cheap game either, over $200 million to make, and it had, 700 concurrent player count. Maybe probably less than that right now. I'm not going to look it up, but you can if you want. It's not going to get higher. I'll wrap it up there, though. Thank you, everybody, for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff, and we'll see you all next time. Until then, keep leveling up, everyone, and take care.